receives the merit of giving a brown cow in charity with every syllable he pronounces or reads. Even the reading of only 1/4 of a verse each day is as meritorious as giving 1,000 cows in charity. I am delighted with a person who in this age of Kali honors the Srimad Bhagavatam in his house, claps his hands in praise of the Bhagavatam, and sometimes shouts with joy while reading it. When one possesses the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the use of collecting hundreds and thousands of other texts? So there is unlimited good fortune available to us just by reciting any syllable or reading any syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even 1/4 of a verse is as meritorious as giving 1,000 cows in charity. Because we are in this month of Kartik, everything that we do spiritually is amplified, magnified. So if you are in the month of Kartik and you do not know, you don't have a vow yet, or you don't have a vrat that you would like to take up for this month, or even if you have one and you want to just add to it, we can read one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. We can read 1/4 of a verse, so even just one line. Even if we, while reading it, claps his hands in praise of Bhagavatam and sometimes shouts with joy while reading it, we get benefits. The benefits of giving in charity, which I've always looked at as wonderful because, you know, I don't have the thousands of cows to give in charity. But my Krishna said, no problem. You have Srimad Bhagavatam. You have the greatest of all benedictions. So in honor of Srimad Bhagavatam, let us speak loudly so that we get this benefit, especially on this Ekadashi. Let us say, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Let us clap our hands just a few times for this wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam. And let us pay our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who spread this wonderful benediction throughout the entire world. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And all glories to our Krishna Chandra, who is always, always looking to benefit us any way possible. So with this, now we can actually kind of begin. So it is said that as the Ganges is the best of all rivers, as Lord Acyuta is the best of all beings to be worshipped, as Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all literatures, Lord Shiva is the greatest of all Vaishnavas. And so today, on this quite spooky day, on this Ekadashi, in the month of Kartik, we'll be discussing our Vaishnav Shiromani, our greatest of all Vaishnavas, Mahadev, Lord Shiva. Interestingly enough, the month of Kartik is dear to both Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. So these 4 months of Chaturmas, it is said that Lord Vishnu goes to sleep. Not only Lord Vishnu, but all of the demigods and devtas go to sleep. They take a much needed nap. But if they're all asleep, someone needs to safeguard the entire universe. And so our acharyas and our spiritual Vaishnav Vedic texts say there is one person who stays awake while everyone else goes to sleep, just to safeguard the entire universe in case there are any problems. And that personality is Lord Shiva. He decides, everyone else, you go to sleep. It's okay. I'll take up the service of watching over this entire creation. So Lord Shiva is always eager and ready to serve. And so during these months of Chaturmas, they are quite ideal for worshiping Lord Shiva because he has taken on yet another, we'll talk about many times, that he takes on the responsibilities of trying to serve others, even at the risk of his own personal harm. So this month of Kartik, now it being the last month of Chaturmas, Lord Shiva's job, single-handedly protecting the universe, is almost done. So this month is very, very, very dear to him. This month has within it Kartik Purnima, which will be coming up towards the end of the month. And it is on this day of Kartik Purnima that Lord Shiva defeats the demons, the Tripura demons, which are 3 demons who were terrorizing the entire universe. Lord Shiva defeats them using a bow made from Mount Meru. The string was the personified form of Lord Anantashesh. There was a bell on this bow, which was the personified form of the goddess of music. And the arrow that he uses to defeat them was specifically empowered and the personified form of Lord Vishnu himself. So it is on that Kartik Purnima day that Lord Shiva defeats these demons and he makes the universe safe again. And with that bow, after he's done, he gives that bow to the Devas. The Devtas give that bow in succession to many, many kings. And that bow winds up in a wonderful, wonderful temple room worshipped by Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj, of course, as we know, is the father of Sita Devi. And it is that very bow which unites Sri Ram and Sita, which, as Diwali is coming up, I thought was quite a fitting tie-in for everything. So Lord Shiva, our greatest Vaishnav, will hear from the wonderful pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, giving us all more benedictions today. Just taking joy in hearing these wonderful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll hear our origin story. So Lord Brahma was engaged in the creation of the universe. And Lord Brahma first creates so many different, what I really like about Srimad Bhagavatam is that it doesn't leave anything to guesswork. When they say spiritual science, they really mean spiritual science, heavily documented. So they speak about how Lord Brahma creates not only what we consider embodied beings, but also emotions. So many emotions are first created. It says Lord Brahma first created the nescient engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, and the illusory bodily concept of forgetfulness of one's real identity. This is our king of all spiritual knowledge. How amazing. I remember thinking when I was young that I kind of, like, I wanted to read a little bit of the Bible, like to see what all the hype was about, you know, like there are people who have dedicated their entire existence. And when I first read it, I was looking at the first few sentences, which are, in the beginning, God said, let there be light. And there was light. And then it just kind of goes on. And as a Krishna kid growing up with Srimad Bhagavatam, I was incredibly confused. So first I was thinking, I was like, maybe I just need a purport to these texts of the Bible, because I'm used to Srimad Bhagavatam, which leaves nothing out. When we get to a creation, Bhagavatam spends so much time on the creation of the universe. There's so much in it even before the light gets there. Even in the darkness, we have Lord Brahma trying to figure out what his job is, how he was created, where he's going, what he's doing. He has to have and perform tapasya and penance, even to just understand what he's seeing. If he sees a light, an effulgence, he's going to go and research it. So I developed such an appreciation for Srimad Bhagavatam while looking at different faiths and these different spiritual texts. Because through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada, we've gotten such a condensed, concentrated essence of everything. Everything. There's absolutely nothing left out, nothing that we're thinking, well, but how did that happen? Srimad Bhagavatam has a definitive answer. So as we continue, Lord Brahma creates the four sages, our four Kumaras, Sanak Kumara, Sananda Kumara, Sanatan Kumara, and Sanat Kumara. And what Lord Brahma says to these sons first is, well, my job was to create the universe. So all of you should fill up the population of mankind. Create progeny, one of those wonderful like SAT smart words that Srila Prabhupada has given us and Srimad Bhagavatam has given us. Makes us feel like Srimad Bhagavatam will make us really smart. Progeny, who uses that word anymore? So he says, become progenitors, fill up the population of the universe. And these wonderful sons of Lord Brahma look at him and in true fashion, from children to parents, they completely disobey him and they say, no. They say, not only are we not going to have children or families or wives, not only are we not going to get caught up in any material activities that you are currently asking of us, we don't want to get caught up in these material activities so much that we are going to use our yogic powers to stay forever young. We're going to stay 5 years old and naked. We refuse to get caught up in any of these things. We've decided that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best thing to meditate on. And in order to dedicate ourselves fully, we're disobeying. So Srimad Bhagavatam says that in anger and frustration, Lord Brahma tries to curb his anger and frustration, but is unable to do so. And from between his eyebrows, a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated. After his birth, he began to cry, "O destiny maker, teacher of the universe, kindly designate my name and place." In fact, it was said that this child would not stop crying, and he was wailing, and this cry was filling up all the directions of the entire universe. The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, "Do not cry. I shall certainly do as you desire." And thereafter, Lord Brahma also said, "O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people, because you have so anxiously cried. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity." Lord Brahma said, "My dear boy Rudra, you have 11 other names: Manu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadwaj, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadev, and Dritavrat. O Rudra, you also have 11 wives called the Rudranis. My dear boy, you may now accept all the names and places designated for you and your different wives. And since you are now one of the masters of the living entities, you may increase the population on a large scale." The purports give a wonderful explanation of what has just happened. So he's given him all of these places to live, but none of them seem like actual places. The air, the heart, the mind. What's happening? How does a person reside in such places? And Srila Prabhupada says that what's now happening is this Rudra is the personified form of anger, which then leads to this seemingly ignorance, this forgetfulness of one's real position, this ahankar, this self-identification with the body as all that there is, this ego. And so Srila Prabhupada says that as Rudradev was born from between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma in this anger and frustration, he says what happens within the heart, he says, which is wonderfully explained within Bhagavad Gita, is from hankering. So we often hear lust, right? And so sometimes we think about lust in just one-dimensional terms, in terms of just relationships or in terms of sexual desire. But now we hear Srila Prabhupada saying lust and hankering, this desire, which has actually really nothing to do but with creation. So Lord Brahma had a hankering and a desire. Oh, my sons, create, fill up the universe. Help me perform my work. He had a hankering. That desire goes unfulfilled. And from those unfulfilled desires, Sri Krishna says, from contemplating the objects of the senses, lust develops. When lust goes unfulfilled, the natural result is anger. And so now we see in practical application, Lord Brahma has this unfulfilled hankering, and immediately Lord Shiva is born. After this most powerful Rudra, whose bodily color was blue mixed with red, created many offspring, exactly resembling him in features, strength, and furious nature. The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number, and when they assembled together, they attempted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entities, saw this, he became afraid of the situation. Brahma told Rudra, "Oh, best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me." So we see that Lord Shiva has rightly given his generating, his principle of destroying the universes. But now this is unrestrained. This is undisciplined, this raw power. And it's destroying everything in all directions, even as soon as he had just created it. Lord Brahma further told Lord Rudra, "My dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities, and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before. By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity, and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses." Thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of the Vedas. Addressing him with words of assent, he entered the forest to perform austere penances. And so we see from that day onward, from the very beginning of his creation, Lord Shiva has been steeped in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of his very own heart, whom he calls Lord Sankarshan, who is none different than Lord Anantadev. So this is our Lord Shiva. And as he was born from Lord Brahma's hankering and desire, I wanted to briefly, because we need to leave time for questions, answers, all these things, I wanted to briefly explain a hankering that Lord Shiva had. Lord Shiva one day was in Kailash meditating, and he's realized that the very soul of the entire universe, all of a sudden, in his original form, has taken birth within the realm of Vrindavan. Lord Shiva thinks, "I must go see my Lord. Let me go immediately." He wants to go and see Lord Krishna. Just as he's about to leave Kailash, his wife Parvati stops him. Mahadevi says, "Oh, my Lord, where are you going? And what are you intending to do?" He says, "I have to go. My Lord has appeared in Vrindavan Dham in Braj Mandal. I have to go see him." She says, "Take me with you." He says, "I can't. It's going to be a really quick trip." You stay here. She says, but my lord, I'm one half of you. He says, and as one half of me, if I see the Lord, you also benefit. No problem. She says, well, if I have to stay here, then just bring me back a gift. He says, anything, Devi. What can I bring you? She says, well, I've heard that this realm of Vrindavan is very famous for their butter. Can you bring me back some of the butter from Vrindavan Dham? He says, done. No problem. And Lord Shiva immediately sets out for Braj Mandal. No, who can travel as quickly as Lord Shiva? No one. But Lord Shiva on the way is thinking, should I change my appearance? No. My Lord will recognize me in any form I take. Why not show up in my original form? My Lord will know who I am. And so in his original form, complete with all of his insignia, he arrives within Sri Vrindavan Dham. He journeys and journeys and journeys, looking like a very eccentric mendicant, until he arrives at the wonderful palace of Nanda Maharaj. And he stands outside the palace doorways and gateways of Nanda Maharaj's palace, calling out for alms. Bhiksham Dehi Maya. Finally, Yashoda Rani comes out. And she thinks, oh, well, this is a very interesting looking person. He's got matted locks and snakes, and there are kind of scorpions crowded around him, dripping. And so she says, oh, mendicant, what alms can I give you? He says, I want nothing else but to have the benediction of seeing your new child. Now, this child is new. And what we know about Krishna is 3 days old, right? 3 days in, he kills Putana. But Putana was a witch who had come to just hold Krishna. So now I can only imagine that Mother Yashoda has some well-earned post-traumatic stress issues. She takes one look at this wonderful mendicant and says, absolutely not. No, you can't see my child. Just looking at you will frighten my child to death. Absolutely not. Lord Shiva says, but I've come all this way. You must let me have darshan of this child. All I want is to see him. She says, I don't care. I'm not letting you see my child. I'm not letting you anywhere near my child. This is ridiculous. Now, anybody, there's jokes made about the parent of a first child. And Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi have waited so long to have a child. Now they have Krishna, and usually with the first child, the parents put the child on a pillow, carry him around, right? Not just anybody gets to see the child. And you have to sanitize your hands 2, 3, 4 times. COVID precautions have nothing on a first-time parent. You are going to make sure everything is sanitized. Nothing comes in contact with that child. So now Mother Yashoda is looking at this man with snakes and scorpions and ashes and skulls and tiger leopard skins. And she's thinking, absolutely not. No. Lord Shiva begins to lament, but you must. I am willing. I will stand outside your door and wait for 10,000 years until you let me see this child. And Yashoda Rani says, I will keep the gate closed for 20,000 years. No matter how long you think you can stand out there waiting, I will close the gate that much longer. There's no way I'm letting you see my child. Finally, Lord Shiva goes a little bit away within Vrindavan Dham, and he just begins to cry. Within the palace of Yashoda Rani, Krishna also begins to cry. And he refuses to stop crying. She changes him, she feeds him, she makes him comfortable, she sings him songs, she rocks him, she bounces him. He refuses to stop crying. She feeds him, she does everything she can. He won't stop crying. Finally, there are some of the village ladies, and they say, well, Yashoda, I don't know what you've done today, but there must have been some offense on your part. Have you offended anyone? Brahmins, anyone, mendicants? I don't know, because it seems as though your child is crying unconsolably, as if almost possessed. Maybe this is the work of some offense you've committed. Yashodharani thinks, no, I have. Wait a minute. And she remembers the mendicant who she turned away. And with much foreboding in her heart, she thinks, fine. She picks up her child and she goes to seek out this mendicant who is sitting under a tree, crying and singing the glories of Shri Krishna. And she brings the child to him. O Brahman, please bless my son. My son has been inconsolable ever since you left, and I can only think that it is due to some offense. I apologize for my offense. Lord Shiva, may I hold the child? And Yashodharani, with much, much trepidation, hands over her very precious child to this mendicant. Shri Krishna immediately stops crying. Lord Shiva holds the master of the universe in his lap. And he composes 1,000 names of Lord Gopal, a Gopal Sahasranam. He starts composing prayer after prayer after prayer in honor of little Bal Gopal, who we've been worshiping this entire month. And Yashodharani says, "O mendicant, you must be a very, very, very mystical being, so powerful, but you must now reside here in Vrajmandal. You must reside here in Vrindavan to always bless my child." And so Lord Shiva has a form that always resides in Vrindavan, who is known as Asheshwar Mahadev. Asheshwar because he had a desire which then became fulfilled. And this Mahadev is very fond of fulfilling the desires of others. So Asheshwar Mahadev is always on the side of the Vaishnavas, always ready to bless other Vaishnavas. And he stays in Brajmandal in a separated form, because this particular Lord Shiva does have to go back to Kailash. As we remember, Parvati Devi had asked for a gift. And if there was one thing that Lord Shiva is going to do, he is going to keep his wife happy. So, Asheshwar Mahadev now has seen the beautiful child, Yashodharani, can understand that this person can bless her child unlimitedly. But she also says, hey, Baba, watch your snakes. My child's body is so soft and delicate. In fact, give him back. Just give him back. Yashodharani is done with this experiment. Krishna is happy. She takes him back. And she says, now, is there anything else I can do for you before you leave? And Lord Shiva says, can you give me a little butter, mother? She says, no problem. She goes within her house, brings a small pot of butter back to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva thinks, perfect. And he's on his way back to Kailash. And as he's on his way back to Kailash, he's reciting this Gopal Sahasranam that he just composed. And as he's reciting this Gopal Sahasranam that he just composed, he's thinking, wonderful, let me just taste a little of this prasad from Vrindavan. Taste some of the butter. And he's reciting this Gopal Sahasranam and he's tasting and he's reciting and tasting. And just as he gets back to Kailash, he realizes that the pot of butter is completely empty now. And so when he gets back to Kailash, Parvati Devi says, how was it? How was it? And he says, oh, Devi, let me just tell you. And he begins to recite the entire pastime. And then he recites to her the entire Gopal Sahasranam. And she says, oh, my Lord, how wonderful these pastimes are. But I did ask for one thing. Did you bring me the butter? Yes. Well, I did. I had it. But I ate it. What do you mean you ate it? What does that mean? Well, I was so eager. Somehow or other, while I was reciting this Gopal Sahasranam on the way back, I ate it. Is there any left? No, not any. Not even a morsel? And in true married life fashion, our Parvati Devi gets extremely angry. She says, I asked for one thing, and you could not bring it back for me. And in a heated anger, Immediately, she curses her husband. She says, just as you have deprived me of this prasad from Vrindavan Dham, no self-respecting Vaishnav will take your Mahaprasad. And so we see that today, Vaishnavs usually do not take the Mahaprasad from Lord Shiva. Mahadev himself, master of this realm, this Bhuloka, he says, so be it, joyfully, just remembering that he was able to have this unprecedented, wonderful darshan of Sri Krishna. She gives up her anger after that. They are fine. They'll be fine. But this is our wonderful Mahadev, always ready and willing to bless other Vaishnavas, ready and willing to take up any dangers to protect Vaishnavas. It is because of him that he swallowed the ocean of poison that was threatening to engulf the entire universe during the churning of this great mountain. There was so much incredible poison. All of the demigods look to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu says, I know just what to do. They all go to Kailash and they pray to Lord Shiva. Please, if anyone can help us, it is you. And Lord Shiva famously says, the Supreme Lord, because he takes permission, before undertaking such a dangerous thing, he takes permission from his wife. Oh Bhavani, please let me take up this task for the benefit of all the Vaishnavas, for the benefit of all devotees, for the rest of time. We all know that the Supreme Lord is pleased with those who are able to benefit others, even if it takes some discomfort to my person. Let me be the one to perform this task. Lord Shiva drinks up that poison, holds it in his throat, and is forever known as Nilkant. However, our acharyas say there is a different reason why he is known as Nilakanta, blue-throated one whose throat is as dark bluish black as a thundercloud. Some say it is because of holding this poison in his throat, but our acharyas say that it is because he is always engaged in chanting the names and glories of Sri Krishna Chandra. And so, because he holds all of this, his throat is always engaged in chanting the names of Sri Krishna. His throat turns blue, just like Sri Krishna. And thus he is known as Nilakanta. It is said that Lord Shiva is he is so fond of being addressed as Nilakanta because it reminds him of his connection with Sri Krishna. This is our greatest of Vaishnavas, and there are unlimited pastimes and unlimited wonderful things that we can say about this wonderful Vaishnav who is known as Gopeshwar Mahadev, who is always on our side, who can bless us with unlimited love for Sri Sri Radha Govinda. He is the gatekeeper of the Rasa dance, the very gatekeeper of Vrindavan Dham. If we want to gain access to any of the pastimes of the realm of Sri Vrindavan Dham, we have to ask Lord Shiva for access. We have to ask Lord Shiva in order to gain entrance. This is our wonderful Vaishnavacharya that we speak about on this spooky Ekadashi day. He is known as Bhutanath, the lord of all ghosts and hobgoblins and fearful entities. But why? It's because there is no one more merciful than him in the entire universe. It is said, if you don't have a guru, you pray to Lord Shiva, and he'll immediately accept you. All of these disembodied beings who no one wants to be associated with, Lord Shiva says, no problem. I'll take you under my wing. I will be responsible for your spiritual upliftment. He gives shelter to anyone and everyone. But his most favorite thing is to lead those back to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So I hope that we can pray to him on this day to bless us in this holy month of Kartik, which is so dear to him. In this Ekadashi day, which is so dear to all Vaishnavas. And we can pray that he will give us love for Shri Sri Radha Muralidhar. Shri Radha Govinda, and Shri Gaura Chandra. Vaishnav Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gopeshwar Mahadev, Lord Shiva ki jai. So I have to open it up for questions now.
Okay, Hare Krishna, do we have questions or contributions? Actually, the Gopi Devi Prabhu, so I was thinking that you were going to tell us about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and how he would drive out ghosts and spirits from the properties of Gaudiya Math that they were purchasing for temples. That's nice.
There's even, we could have spoken about Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his run-ins with all the amazing, like there are so many. Even Srila Prabhupada himself, he was able to, in the properties in England, he was able to drive out these spirits, but just with the use of kirtan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was able to do it just by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. How wonderful is our Vedic culture?
Okay, Saradi Rasa Devi Dasi. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Acyuta Gopi. Thank you so much for the class. I actually saw a very beautiful painting of Lord Shiva like 2 days ago, and when I saw it, for some reason I was thinking Acyuta Gopi would like this. And so it's very interesting that you spoke about Lord Shiva today. And I will send you the artwork. I think you will like it. I have actually quite a lot of questions, but I'll just ask one for now. I'm kind of fascinated by Lord Shiva's relationship with Krishna, because we also see, if I remember correctly, in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, there's also a pastime where Shiva wants to see Lord Chaitanya, then I think he goes as a snake. And it's a similar thing where Mother Sachi is very concerned about him meeting little Nimai, but at the end, she allows it. But now my question is, there's also this pastime where, Lord Shiva wants to enter the rasa dance. Obviously, we know that doesn't quite work out for him, but he has the desire. So I'm curious, like, how does he relate to Krishna? Because it seems that it's almost that he, it's almost like he wants different rasas of Krishna, because when he comes to see Krishna as a baby, it's almost like parental. Like, I can imagine him just like holding Krishna, as a baby, and then it's like a parental ras. But then if he has a desire to go to the rasa dance, that is a conjugal rasa. I'm very curious if you've got any insight, like what is his relationship with Krishna, or does it change, or does he have a desire for different rasas?
Yeah, what's really amazing is the relationship between like Mahadevi, who's none other than Mahamaya, right? So the wife of Lord Shiva, Mahamaya, and Lord Shiva, and Lord Krishna, right? So the relationship between all of them is just so amazingly wonderful, because then technically, in the course of just looking at like familial relationships, Lord Shiva winds up being like his brother-in-law, because he accepts Parvati Devi and Mahamaya as his sister. So he considers him family. But yeah, in so many of our Vedic texts, we hear about how, even in Brahma Samhita, we hear, right? Originally, Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are like one in the same. And then in order to achieve a certain function, it's like getting yogurt from milk, right? You can get the yogurt from the milk, but you can't turn the yogurt back into milk. The milk is in its purest form is always going to be milk. So we have this wonderful personality, Lord Shiva, who is enigmatic, right? Like it's like mysterious and confusing to even understand. And I think like that's the point. When we think of how inconceivable Krishna is, because Sadashiva, Lord Shiva in his purest form, they say, and within the pages of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, they say that one can gain the position of Indra. One can even do penance and gain the position of being Lord Brahma. But no one can become Lord Shiva. So Brahma is a post. Indra is a post. And there are entities that occupy these posts, like having a president. President is the post, but the president also has a function and a person, right? And that person may change. So these are posts, but Lord Shiva, he's not a post. He's an entity unto himself. He has an abode that remains when everything else is dissolved, because he is so closely related to Lord Krishna. They say that they, according to having qualities, according to having percentages of the opulences of Krishna, or the opulences even of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva is the closest. He is like the closest you can get. So it's quite an inconceivable relationship. The pages of Chaitanya Bhagavat describe that one who tries to understand Lord Krishna while disrespecting Lord Shiva, while not giving proper respect to Lord Shiva, those people are lost. In fact, Mahaprabhu says to Nitai, he says, one who tries to understand me and love me without properly understanding you, O Nitai, it's like trying to understand Lord Krishna without understanding Lord Shiva. This is Mahaprabhu speaking. And so it says, even within the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, Lord Shiva is forever concentrating on the form of Lord Anantadev. And then Lord Anantadev says, he's so dear to me, I consider him as even non-different from my very own self. It is a very inconceivable relationship. In the simplest terms, right? Because we do hear of Gopeshwar Mahadev, who wants to enter into the rasa dance. We hear of Gopeshwar, we have Asheshwar Mahadev, who wants to see little baby Krishna. Chakleshwar Mahadev, who protects the devotees. All of these different forms of Lord Mahadev. Lord Mahadev does gain darshan of Lord Chaitanya. They speak for some time. They embrace. Mother Parvati says, oh, you just come. I will make you lunch. First thing she does, she cooks for him. So we see all of these different forms, but we also see the different forms that Parvati Devi will take, Mahamaya, Yogamaya, all of these different forms. And Gaur Govinda Maharaj describes for Mahamaya, she is whatever Krishna needs her to be, whenever Krishna needs her to be it, however Krishna desires her to be. And I can only know that it must be the same for Lord Shiva. He is whatever the Lord desires, whenever and however. So yeah, there are going to be so many different rasas. I mean, he takes the form of Advaita Acharya, but still even desires to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even more. So as the Lord has the ability to expand unlimitedly in order to fulfill the desires of the devotees, devotees like Lord Shiva have the unlimited capacity to expand in order to serve. And what I've heard from the pages of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Lord Shiva himself, his only desire is to serve. His only desire is to serve. And so they say that the most staunch devotees, the real, truly strict devotees of Lord Shiva, not praying to him for anything other than devotion to Lord Shiva, they go to Lord Shiva's abode, and then Lord Shiva personally escorts them to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. He stands at the gate of every holy place as a Dhampala, as protector of the Dhams. In fact, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Parvati Devi, you reside within Mayapur along with your husband, and you protect this great city of Mayapur. And so in some cases, they say, this is why Mayapur is named Mayapur. It is the abode of Maya Devi. She is mistress and protectress there. But why? He says, for those people who have no love for me, even if they think they reside within the holy Dham, you keep their consciousness hid far away. You hide who I am from them. But for those people who have any amount of love for me, I give you the benediction that you will personally escort them to my lotus feet. This is our transcendental power couple. This is Mahadev and Mahadevi. So they are whatever Krishna needs them to be, whenever and however he needs them to be it. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. I think I also just have to accept that, you know, Lord Shiva is in some ways we're not supposed to understand him. It's kind of like beyond comprehension. And yeah,
I mean, though,
many
you know,
ways.
we've seen examples like we don't have to be stuck in just one rasa. And it says even within Nectar of Devotion that all of the higher rasas contain tinges of all the others. So even within the highest rasas of thinking about Krishna as in the, like as the gopis are looking at Krishna with this romantic love within the heart, but it contains little tinges of all the others. The protection, the fierce protective nature of parental love, but the informal rasas of friendship. But then it's also contained within this highest love of looking at Krishna as a romantic partner. So it's not difficult to see how he's not contained to just one rasa. Also, as Lord Shiva, one thing I really that helped me understand the yogurt milk analogy, and how he's able to act within this world and still be outside of it. One time Amarendra Prabhu was giving a wonderful lecture on Lord Shiva, and I can't remember exactly which one it was because there's so many, which I really love. But he was saying it's like, you know, it's like the electric company and the electricity in your house. The electric company is the overhead, but you don't say Con Edison came to my house and like every day, every time I turn on the light, you're not like Con Edison came and put the electricity in the light bulb. No, you need a carrier. So it is said that Krishna is Krishna. But when he has to interact with the material universe or Maya Devi, right? You look at it, he glances over Maya Devi, but the relationship there is a little bit more fraternal. But she needs to interact with someone. So you need a carrier. So just as though you have the different wires that carry the electric current, when she has to create jivas and do all of these things, Lord Shiva becomes that carrying agent. And that to me made so much sense because I was like, oh yeah, no, that's great. You got like light bulbs and wires and all the things. And so you have the overhead. We have Sri Krishna, who is always Sri Krishna. But if he has to interact with Maya Devi, that rasa is going to be real weird, real fast. And so he uses a carrying agent, which is Lord Shiva.
Acyuta Gopi, just wanted to appreciate your post, the point that you made about how Lord Brahma is a post and Lord Shiva is a personality. That made me think, am I a post? Is Ananda Bihari Das a post? I guess yes. And we think we're so important. So many things matter in our little life, but it's just a post. It's just a job that we somehow or other signed up for and stuck with. Thank you very much for zooming out.
My kirtan guru and like my kitchen guru Shrikanta, he used to say, he said, I'm here cooking, but if I don't come, somebody else will do it. Krishna will make arrangements for somebody else to do it. And he would never say it in the mood of like being flippant, like I don't have to do my service because if I don't do it, somebody else will do it. But he took that mood of being a post to the highest degree. And what he meant was, just as Krishna has given me this potency to do this, just as easily, he can give that potency to somebody else. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The post of kirtan singer, person who's like obsessively really loving Govinda, that like it's a post. And just as easily as Krishna has given me any facility, he can give it to somebody else, which just reminds me that I want to take advantage of it while it's here. I want to really dive in and appreciate whatever Krishna has given me, because tomorrow he could see fit to give it to somebody else. As we know, Krishna is so kind that he's so merciful that he really keeps giving us the potency day after day. But tomorrow somebody else might have the post. Tomorrow that job might be somebody else's. So let me try and serve a little bit while I have it.
Yeah. So see, dear devotees, this is the proper way of celebrating Ekadasi. Like Chuta Gopi is not reducing it to what has grains, what doesn't. She glorifies Krishna. She glorifies the devotees of Krishna. So thank you very much, Chuta Gopi, for the wonderful, lively presentation. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Come back tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam is every day. Ahoitaki pratiyataha, unceasing, uninterrupted. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Oh, wait.
Saradia, of course. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'll just ask one more question, I promise. So my question is, Acyuta Gopi, in the beginning of the class, you were explaining, or you're reciting all these verses that explain how beneficial it is to read the Bhagavatam, especially during Kartik, even if you just read like a quarter of a verse. And that really struck me. And then it was compared to giving cows in charity. And I understand, like, why giving cows in charity, like in Vedic culture was, I suppose, like one of the greatest forms of charity. But I'm curious to why, not why is there the comparison, but why is, if you could elaborate on why reading Bhagavatam, is so beneficial and so glorious. I mean, besides just from, okay, we read and, what we read and it's, we're interacting with Krishna, but why specifically is just one verse so glorious?
I mean, hold on. Okay. So, that quote that I was giving was from Skanda Purana. And so why? Well, I mean, this was Sri Krishna saying this himself. He's like, it's non-different from my very self. This Bhagavat Purana is non-different from me. So he goes on to say, right, there's another paragraph. One who does not read the Srimad Bhagavatam cannot even be called a Vaishnava. All of the holy places and holy rivers are present in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Wherever there is Srimad Bhagavatam, I go there like a cow who is fond of her calf. I never abandon the person who is attached to studying Srimad Bhagavatam. If a person honors the Srimad Bhagavatam upon seeing it by standing up and then bowing down to offer obeisances, I derive matchless pleasure by seeing him. Upon seeing the Srimad Bhagavatam in the distance, if a person hastens towards it, he will undoubtedly receive the merit of performing a horse sacrifice with each step he takes. For one who very respectfully listens to the Srimad Bhagavatam, I am easily won over. Krishna makes it so easy. We think about conquering Krishna, especially in Kartik, right? Because that's the deal. Right? The deal within Kartik is trying to conquer the unconquerable, bind up Krishna. Krishna makes it so easy. He says, for one who just respectfully listens. All we have to do is respectfully listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, which is non-different from Krishna. He says, I am easily won over. Every pastime, every verse within Srimad Bhagavatam has benedictions attached to it because it is non-different than Sri Krishna. Gaur Govinda Maharaj used to say everything is in Bhagavatam. It is like an ocean with no bottom, but you have to dive in. You must dive in to get the jewels. There are jewels at the bottom of the ocean, you would say, but they're not at the top. They go all the way down to the bottom. So you have to dive deep. And we always, in our minds, we overcomplicate the idea of diving deep. Here, Sri Krishna has simplified it. Just respectfully listen to it. Even if we think, and Lord knows I have thought this, even if we think, I don't even understand what's being read. There are whole sections of Srimad Bhagavatam. The breakdown of time hurts my heart and my soul and my head. I cannot. I'm really not good at math. And so the breakdown of time, and when they break it down with all of these like different, I can't even begin to comprehend. But I can listen respectfully. That I can do, even if I don't understand it. And just that alone wins over Shri Krishna. So when they give you these benedictions, right, and they say it's equal to this merit of giving 1,000 cows in charity, right? It's like, well, why did they pick that? It's a measuring stick for the inconceivable merit. Like they're trying to bring the inconceivable into something that our minds can kind of grasp. And so what they understood was the merit you receive by giving in charity, because they could see the tangible effects of that. The sages of those times could understand the effects of giving in charity. Today, we have no concept of even what that gives, right? We need new measuring sticks for what these benedictions will give us. And so in trying to bring the inconceivable to something a little bit more conceivable, they give you measuring sticks. So now we have benedictions like he will never fear, he will gain all kinds of followers, all kinds of opulence, all kinds of, and this is the same as like what you would get by giving all of these thousands of cows in charity was the abundance of all the worlds. So in essence, what they're saying is just by meditating on just 1/4 of a verse. And what they said is he gets the result of all the opulence of the world with each syllable that he recites or hears. Syllable. This is even smaller than just one line of Bhagavatam, 1/4 of a verse. Each syllable gives you the abundance equal to inheriting all of the opulence of all of the worlds that we can't even imagine. That alone, I feel more and more indebted to my Krishna every day. How can I even begin to measure the love and affection that Shri Krishna has for every single one of us? Because there is no other reason that he gives us the means to purchase him other than the fact that he has love and affection for us. It's not because we've been so awesome that we deserve it. We've been constantly forgetting him lifetime after lifetime, and still he decides that he has such love and affection that he's going to cheat. He's going to simplify it. He's going to dumb it down for me. He's going to distill it to its essence to make it easier for me, because I might not be able to do all the things that is required. I definitely am not able to do all the things that are required. I'm still at the point where I'm like, if I could just chant my rounds with attention, not even extra, just the 16. If I could just chant those with some form of attention, if I could just chant one whole round with attention. But now Krishna is distilling all of this essence because of the great love and affection that he has for us in his heart, which is unlimited. Just respectfully hear it. He'll save us from everything. He says he's won over. He wants to reside with that person. So I hope that kind of answered the question. But really, Srimad Bhagavatam, we don't have access to all of the holy places and all of the rivers, but we do. If we can't journey to Sri Vrindavan Dham, and I did this during last year's Kartik and Purushottam Mas, I was in New York. I'm always in New York. And I always felt like I can't go on pilgrimage. And then every day I went to a different place. I would read the story of Gajendra and say, now I get to go on pilgrimage to Trikuta Mountain, a place inaccessible to most people, right? I get to see what it looks like. I get to go there on pilgrimage, thanks to the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you are yearning to go on a pilgrimage this Kartik, just pick up Srimad Bhagavatam at random and see where Sri Krishna takes you that day. We can go to Haridwar, even with Ajamil at the end of his life. We can go to Varanasi. We can go to unlimited holy places. And we should know without doubt that we're there. Krishna promises There's no difference. We are there. So everything is situated within Srimad Bhagavatam. This literary form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So any desire that we have can be fulfilled by Srimad Bhagavatam, and we should have full faith in that. We can take that as our ultimate wealth. If we are having a problem, if we need assistance, if we need a prayer for abundance, Srimad Bhagavatam has every single thing. I hope that answer the question.
Hare Krishna, that was a perfect answer. Srimad Bhagavatam answers all the questions. And there's something in the chat. One of our listeners, Kuspo Basan, says that the deity of Lord Shiva helped him understand the difficult tattva by bringing him to your class. I believe that's what the deity did, brought into our class this morning. And another devotee, Bhima Prabhu, he has horses, and all the horses are appreciating the Krishna Katha today. And Bhima Prabhu is so thankful. Bhima Prabhu, thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah,
thank you. That, I feel as though sometimes we look at like the animals, and to us, they're just animals, right? We have no idea what amazing souls have decided to become animals near the presence of devotees, just because they know they'll get opportunities like this.
Yeah.
Oh, yay! That's so amazing. I love horses. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. Acyuta Gopi, wonderful class, highlight of our day. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Come back tomorrow. Acyuta Gopi Prabhu, you can say, was it Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam?
Yeah, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our king of holy scriptures. So Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Ekadasi Devi ki jai. One day, maybe next Ekadashi, we'll dedicate that Ekadashi to explaining Ekadashi as our great Vaishnavi. So
cool. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.